Today's litigation webcast is an important topic. We're going to talk about protecting your personal assets when you're doing business. We're going to talk about the importance of setting up the appropriate business entity so that in the event something happens, for example, a lawsuit or another catastrophic loss, that your personal assets are protected. That is the entire purpose of the corporate entity. That is the purpose of the corporate form. It is there to make sure that the owner's assets are protected. But this is not automatic. You have to do it appropriately. You have to do it properly. And it's best not to do this off the internet. There are websites you can go to pull up these forms and form your own corporation. You can go to this Department of State website and fill out the forms yourself, file everything, and hope that you did it right and hope that your personal assets are being protected. The better way to do it, and it's worth the investment at the start, is to get a lawyer to set this up appropriately. The things that the courts are going to look for to see whether or not the corporate form is going to protect the individual's assets. The first thing they're going to look for is capitalization. Does your company have the appropriate capitalization, enough money to conduct the business that it's supposed to be conducting? This doesn't mean that your company has to have a lot of money. It just has to have enough to handle the bills that it's going to be handling initially. The second thing they look for is are you following the proper corporate formalities? What does this mean? This means things such as, are you filing your tax returns? Is there an operating agreement? Are you following the terms of the operating agreement? For example, are you having board minutes when you should have board minutes? These are the kind of things that the courts look for to make sure that you're following the corporate formalities. They are not difficult to do, but if you let that slip, it can impact your personal assets, and a judgment against the company could become a judgment against you, and that's what you want to avoid. The third thing the court looks to, is there any intermingling of assets? What does this mean? This means, are you using the corporate funds, are you using the corporation's checking account, for example, to pay for your personal expenses? You don't want the corporation's money paying directly your personal expenses. That's called intermingling of funds. You also see intermingling of funds where you're using one corporation's assets to pay the liabilities of another corporation, and that needs to be avoided as well. So the courts are going to look to whether or not there's money going back and forth improperly. You need to make sure that any funds that are transmitted get transmitted in the proper form so that the court doesn't think that there's improper intermingling of funds. The final thing, and this is one that is rather obvious, if you form your corporation for the purposes of committing a crime or for the purpose of committing a fraud, then the courts are more likely to ignore the corporate form and find that you're personally liable for any of the corporation's liabilities. Assuring that your company's corporate veil is there to protect your personal assets is the reason for the corporation. It's the whole purpose of our corporate law and really the cornerstone of business in this country. But you need to make sure that you do it properly. Thank you.